All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 10:01 here in San Diego, California. It is Saturday, December 12th, and I am honored, I am thrilled to be speaking with the incomparable one and only Mr. Robin Black. Robin, how are you today?
Good, bro. It's nice to see your face. And yeah, man, like I'm east, so it's the afternoon here. It's like 1:37 p.m. or something. Something like that.
You know what? God bless you. God bless you. We're 10 seconds in and we've already got our first 1:37 p.m. reference. I love that. Wow. Well, this is really exciting. I must say, I started with 1:37 p.m. just 3 weeks ago or so.
No way.
And as a lifelong fight fan, speaking with you was high on my priority list because I feel like I have learned so much from your videos over the last 2 years. Maybe I feel like I've been watching them, and that's definitely something that I try and do is make the fight game digestible for everyday people. I think a lot of times it's a very toxic debate environment in the fight game, and I am so done with that. I want to spread the positivity, open discussions, conversation, and maybe we can teach people a thing or two about the beautiful sport of combat fighting. So that is why I'm most excited to have you here today.
I mean, that's what I love to do too. You know, I have the same perspective, and I don't think it's fighting. I don't think fighting or martial arts or physical combat gets the blame so much as the way that sport is presented. You know, you get two talking heads with a producer in your ear, kind of gently pushing you towards having conflicting perspectives, whether they're really yours or not, and arguing them to the death. Sort of while blocking out all logic to do so. And that's not what I do. That's not what I'm interested in doing. I don't think that's positive. I don't think that's all that useful. I think it's somewhat entertaining, but that's limiting. I think martial arts, there's so much to learn. And among the things to learn is about how little we know. And so to sit around and just yell at each other about how much we know and how sure we are this guy's going to win or this guy's going to win, to me, that's counterproductive, counterintuitive, countervaluable to what the study of martial arts can give us.
Well, I think when people first start watching, or maybe they just watch on a whim, maybe perhaps they didn't even know they were going to be watching. A lot of times I think people see two objects running into each other.
Yeah.
I think after a few months or a few years, and I think there's also a barrier where after a year of watching and studying, you realize that you know less than you did when you first started, perhaps. So,
For sure.
It goes though from two objects kind of running into each other or hitting each other into this very beautiful chess game. And I feel like you're one of the best people at, showcasing that. So that is why I'm really excited. And I just feel like I really learned from you a lot. So I'm awfully excited as a journalist. You're the exact kind of person I'd love to speak to.
It's interesting because I don't even like the word journalism so much anymore myself. You know, I'm very much an analyst. Journalism is its own skill, the skill of finding stories, telling stories, doing interviews. Over time, something strange happens there too, where you be a journalist long enough about politics and somebody will bring you on CNN and say, this is our political analyst. That person's not a political analyst. They're not a politician. They're a journalist. That's a skill of its own. Same thing with mine. I'm a martial artist first. That's what I do. I'm a practicing martial artist. And if I practice martial arts long enough, I see some of the truths in it. And what's been really great for me over the last couple of years is almost everything, the way that we look at fighting. And I think this is probably true with almost the way we look at everything. It's super limited and it's kind of old. And if you just sort of reject those things that everybody is saying, the narratives that are already there, you just reject those and say, well, what else do I see? There's an unlimited world of shit you can learn. Like, fighting isn't the things that we say it is when we watch television. It's something much deeper, much more detail oriented, much more beautiful, much more philosophical, much more about the path of life itself. That's why fighting to me is the perfect metaphor for life itself.
Oh my goodness. Well, from someone who has a journalism background, I can tell you that I very much appreciate what you were just saying about they turn journalists into something else. So can I perhaps get a brief rundown of what your job description is right now? Because I would say that many people probably know you for the 1 minute breakdown, which we can get into it in a little bit, but currently, what would you say your job title is?
I don't have a job, which is so amazing. And I make pretty good, like, I think I can bring in the kind of earnings of, say, somebody, you know, a dentist who owns his own dental practice, or a lawyer who I mean, I do really well, but I have no job. I analyze martial arts all day long, looking for wonderful details and little inspirations and secrets to the universe, and then I share that with people. The way I get paid is in the process of doing that. That'll bring value to, say, Bellator, was one of my biggest. I think of now, I don't have any employers, but I have a lot of clients. So Bellator's a client. They're like, this guy analyzes martial arts in a way that's really in line with what our audience likes. Maybe he can bring some of that to us in some way that'll be valuable for us, valuable for our clients. Robin will enjoy it, and we'll pay him to do that. And I'll do that with, I have 15, 20 different clients. You know, some are digital. Like there's a company called Wave TV, or Fail Army. Fail Army, people might be familiar. People's pants fall down, or they fall off a ladder, or whatever. I can analyze that too. It's just human movement, right? So, or Wave, which is a really big sports, you know, growing sports company that's super modern and innovative. They'll be like, can you do that thing you do for fights, but do it your way instead of the old way? So by approaching something and finding my own voice in it, and it being strictly my voice, people will pay me to bring my voice to stuff, and I see them as a client. But all day long, I'm analyzing martial arts. I'm building videos for my platforms: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok now, LinkedIn, etc. And I put no differentiation in my mind between the ones that I'm doing for pleasure and the ones that I'm doing for pleasure and someone gave me money. I don't prioritize one or the other. I follow strictly a self-directed path of learning. If I'm learning new things, and if I'm being inspired in new ways, the audience will appreciate that, and I'm on the right path. I'm enriched, and I'm intrinsically joyful about it. And when I am, almost always my audience likes it. And it's crazy. Like 3 years ago, I literally had almost no income. I was working at a company called Fight Network. It was a 24-hour television channel. And we had built a very big YouTube and social media presence for that television channel. And they just didn't understand the value of it. And they cut the entire creative department and the entire content creation department in, I think, 2017. That was my full-time job. And from there, I had about 3,500 Instagram followers at the time. I got about 140,000 now. I had no YouTube channel. I had nothing. And I was like, I still have to, no matter, I wanted to find a job, but I was also like, I need to do the thing I do, which is analyze martial arts. If no one's going to pay me yet, I have to do it every day anyways. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to post. I didn't know how to do anything. I just figured all that out and then started doing it. Then slowly got better and better at it. As I got better and better, the audience grew. When the audience grew and I was better, someone paid me. And 3 years later now, I make dentist money, you know, and I just do my own stuff all day long. It's really nice.
So looking back on those last 3 years or so where you've seen this massive change in your life, although perhaps the content itself hasn't changed all that much, you're still analyzing martial arts and human movement. Was there a 1 minute breakdown that stands out to you perhaps the most, where maybe it was the realization of, wow, this is going to be what I'm known for, or, oh, this is a really good piece of content. I have faith that my audience will enjoy this. Do you have one in particular? Because I will say in the last 2 months, the Street Steve
karate, neighborhood karate.
1 minute breakdown, neighborhood karate, shirtless Steve versus Street Steve, shirtless skip kick, tappa blocked, bing bing bing, 5-punch combination with a round kick chaser, and now for the Street elegance. Pink? What the fuck? Modified spinning crescent kick to a bevy of punches, including boop, the gin fizz uppercut that stuns shirtless Steve. And now,
Robin, when I tell you I watched that video no less than 20 times, I am not lying, my friend. And I just wonder if there was a particular one from a while back where you said, you know what, it might not get a lot of views now, but I have confidence and faith that this is what I should be doing.
So I bought an iPad within a few months. I didn't have one, and I bought an iPad within a few months of that change happening at my full-time job where they cut our department. And literally I was like, I have to figure out. But I was already making breakdowns for that channel and some for the UFC through, that we made at that channel. And when I made them, I had an editor, I had a graphics guy who designed graphics, I had a cameraman, a lighting person, a producer in the back. It was a team of like 8 people, and we slowly built this. I started analyzing martial arts in the similar way to how I do it now in like 2012 or 2013. There was no such thing. Martial arts analysis was not a thing. MMA analysis, it just didn't exist. There was 1 or 2 people. There was a guy named Jack Slack that did it in a written form that I always liked, Jackson OG. And there was somebody called BJJ Scout, BJJ Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who did some kind of videos, but I was familiar with him, and I always respect him as an OG, and my friend Lawrence Kenshin. There was some amount of written analysis, people getting into, hey, this is how it works, and there was people doing demos, but there was nobody putting arrows, zooming things in. I had to create my own language and my own approach and everything, which is exciting. But I had a team of 7 or 8 people, and now I'm at home and I have nothing. I have no idea how to do it, and I bought an iPad, and then somebody sent me a video of something, and then I figured out how to put my voice on it. And then after that, I thought, if I could somehow figure out how to do this myself, the key to it in my mind as a martial artist was, if I do 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000, eventually they'll be good enough that people will like them. I'll get better every day. I'll learn more. It's an inevitability that you will eventually get to a certain point. So I understood that, and I got an iPad, and then once I'd figured out how to voice it, I literally went to YouTube and I Googled how to edit on iMovie, and like a 10-year-old girl taught me how to edit my videos. And once I made the first 1 or 2, I realized if I make 1,000 or 4,000 or 7,000, if this is what I do, this is going to be what I do. This will work for me. This will be a living. But more important than that, it'll let me keep growing. And that's the biggest thing. I don't see this like other people. I don't see it like sportscasters. I don't see it like people who commentate the UFC or any of these things. I have my own way. And that's because of the work. The key is the work. And you just have to figure out how to do the work. But sorry, the other answer I would say is I did a video of Khabib Nurmagomedov fighting a bear when he was 9 years old. And
I've seen it. And
yeah.
It's brilliant.
Vert to the double leg, and now he will look to pass to Mount. Young Khabib looking to pass to Mount, but hey, how about this? Awesome! The bear with the high rotating underhook and the outside knee tap. Classic George St. Pierre takedown. Beautifully executed by Bear, but Khabib would get it back. Here he will scoop from the elbow and rotate himself all the way around. Now trying to hit that switch with the deep reach in here. Continue the rotation. Bring that leg to his sternum and complete the single leg.
Yeah, and that one, all of a sudden, like 1 million people had watched it. And like, I was like, 1 million? Like, my television job, if 10,000 people watched it, we thought that was good ratings. 1 million humans watched this. This is the answer. The answer is get better every single day and then keep bringing it to people. And if it's eventually you'll be skilled enough, you'll be passionate enough, you'll be good enough, you'll have something to offer, and you'll have made enough that they'll find it.
I love that video of your breakdown with Khabib and the bear because, and actually Daniel Cormier has said this. He explains it to people. You can be a very good wrestler. You could be a Division I SEC Oklahoma State wrestler. But there's a difference between that and what Khabib has done in his career. And it only comes from a lifetime of training.
Yeah.
And I think in that video, your breakdown shows at we're talking 8, 9, 10 years old, Khabib with actual tactics. He is using actual tactics, leverage to take down this bear, and you demonstrate that beautifully. But that's also evidence of that lifetime of wrestling that he explains.
So, and there's a number of things there. One is when you're so my root thing was, look what Khabib has done. Look, he's done it from the time he was a child. Two is you got to like allow yourself, if you're a creative, if you're an artist, to let it be more. And on one hand, we're just like, that kid's wrestling a bear, so that element has to also be in there, like, or you can put it in there at the very least. And then on the other one, what was mind blowing, and this is that sense of always learning, the bear was also using tactics. And that element immediately opens up a whole new line of thinking. And now you get to study that. You're like, why does a bear know how to, quote, know how to wrestle? And the answer is, a bear doesn't know how to wrestle. A bear learns fundamental principles of leverage through play. That lesson applies to me and you and everybody else in our own learning. You don't have to learn a particular way. Nobody taught that bear the knee tap to the high underarm like George St. Pierre uses. And if I had the footage, I would have literally side by side George St. Pierre doing the exact tactic that bear did. The truth is, that bear learned it through instinct. George St. Pierre learned it through a different manner, but we learn in ways. And all of a sudden now, that's not a video about a kid wrestling a bear. It's not a video about a wrestler. It's not a video about a bear. It's a video about learning and life. And once you can get yourself, and the only way you get yourself there is the same way Khabib learned to wrestle, is you do tens of thousands of them. You do it in such a way that you feel these things in your skin and your blood. There is no substitute for ruthless and relentless hard work. The best plan and editing software and whatever will never be a substitute for relentless hard work, because once you do that, now you see so many different things in that moment.
You mentioned that that youthful playfulness in the bear, and that's where they learned. They talk about that also, though, in Southeast Asia with Muay Thai a little bit, that when they spar, or maybe with, I believe it's in Cuba as well, that when they spar, it's not intense. It's actually very playful. And do you think those same elements apply to what's going on in Southeast Asia with their Muay Thai as to what you're talking about with that bear or a lion or any creature in the wild?
Yeah. Yes. And I think it applies to us when we're doing whatever we do. We're doing this
What
now. We're having
right
a little
perhaps.
fun. We're experimenting. We're not overly intense. We don't have a list of things we have to talk about. We're not trying certain tactics and techniques. We're playing. We're jamming. We're improvising. And yes. So again, if you peel back the layers, and this, this is somewhere I'm really, not struggling with, although as you study, there are continual plateaus of understanding you have to break through. I'm at a point now where if we continue to look at things the way we look at with the limiting language that we use, we'll continue to only understand that layer. But when two people are fighting, we'll use fighting as an example, but it applies to what we're doing right now. There is a psychological dynamic happening between our two trained brains, right? Our brains are interacting with each other in dynamic ways. If I faint and you respond, and that response creates a thing, and I see it, and play allows that. The more you play, it's with musicians, it's jamming instead of playing only songs. I've gone in, and these things are where the next 20 years of my study and research will go. Sometimes, Dwayne Ludwig tells me this a lot. He's like, if right now his technique that he's sharing is the iPhone 12, he's working on the iPhone 18, and he's ready to put out the iPhone 12 in his mind, but the audience maybe isn't ready for it. He hasn't done his job to have them prepared to be able to use it. And it's the same thing as we're studying this. I have to be looking ahead to what will be meaning in all of this in the future, and how the brains are working is a big part of it. And so we've studied the brains of jazz soloists to see what's and freestyle rappers to see what's happening in that layer of creativity. And that's what I try to study and understand and prepare to even do my job, to freeform connections to fighting as I'm commentating. And the fighters are doing that as well. And that's the next layer of understanding, or a few layers in the future of understanding.
Well, you just took me directly into my next question more beautifully than I ever could have. So one of the things I wanted to look at was from my perspective, when I first started watching mixed martial arts, Nate Diaz was prolific because of his ability to choke people out in addition to being a very good boxer. So we're talking about, 2005, 6, 7. Yeah. There was this wave of, he can strike and grapple.
Yeah.
Then it felt like from 2010 to 2015, leg kicks changed the game. We realized, oh my goodness, if you attack that lead leg or that lead knee over and over, you can win fights this way. I feel like the current wave, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just kind of a hypothesis of mine.
Yeah.
The current wave right now is the use of the feints from City Kickboxing. I feel like they use the feints better than anyone else ever has. I wonder, do you have any suspicions about what the next wave could be in MMA? It kind of goes through these cycles. And
so there's many of them simultaneously, right? And they all make sense to a particular degree because fighting is a living organism. The art of fighting is a living organism. So in addition, so you're talking about feints to get a reaction. In addition to that, a weapon you see a lot is people kicking the calf, right? Both of those things are happening because years back, fighting, once upon a time in 2005, guys would hit each other and inevitably they would grab. And people would say, you got to work on takedown defense because now he's going to take it down. That's almost illogical to even say anymore because fighting now takes place at such a longer distance. So we're further away from each other and we move in and out much more. It sounds crazy, but in 2005, we threw punches until we ran into each other and then we wrestled. Now we move in and out, At a longer distance, if you're out at distance for a long time, you're creating all of these different things to try to overload your opponent's brain. So what I'm trying to do with feints, and feints is kind of a word of the moment, but it's an indirect attack or the implication of something to get a response from you or to get you to freeze. That's the other thing people don't always notice. If I keep faking this, it isn't just to get you to move your hands. It's to eventually get you to disregard it. To say this isn't even a real thing, don't worry about it. Your brain now disregards it, doesn't include it in the algorithmic categorization of all the threats. And now I'm doing that, and eventually you stop responding, and then I just punch you. So it has many sort of different, you shrink away or you over respond, lots of things. But it's happening at a distance because now fighting is taking place at a distance. So the next logical thing, well, and you see this already, is you suddenly see Jorge Masvidal, who's way out front in a lot of things because he's been doing it for so long. Birds fly, fish swim. Jorge Masvidal fights men in cages. Like, this is just what he is. He's blitzing
or
people.
Not in cages.
or in backyards or wherever. That's fighting people is what he was put on earth to do, and he's made himself better at it through hard work his whole life. So he blitzes. Darren Till knocks him out. He comes flying in with the knee, knocks him out. If we're all kind of hesitantly, deeply processing all this information at distance, it makes us sort of analysis paralysis, and then people just come storming. So blitzing, you're starting to see a lot more of. You also see a lot of spinning things, and when you see a lot of spinning things, that suddenly makes big highlights. One thing I can tell you with certainty is between now and 2.5 years from now, there'll be more highlights from people getting knocked out trying spinning things than there will be from people knocking people out doing with their spinning thing. That's a natural reaction. Spinning worked because we were told for so long, don't bother, it's not going to work. If we all believe that in the gym, your training partner never does it. If your training partner never does it, your brain never gets accustomed to interpreting it, and you're susceptible. Now everybody's doing it. So we're able to see it. A spin, just tiny little details. Like if my shoulder and hip move in such a way that you see even the tiniest shadow behind there, I'm spinning. So if that happens, you knock me out. Then we start faking spins. And this is all just action, interpretation of action, interpretation. The calf kick is happening. I was getting at that because if we're fighting at the longest distance, we're going to use our longest range weapon, which is our foot, to hit your closest target, which is your calf. Now we did that. We never did that much, but then we started doing it a lot, 6-7 years ago. And we started seeing this function we weren't aware of, which was it hits a nerve and the nerve kills your ability to move your foot and you have dead foot. Now all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, people have been doing Muay Thai for 1,500 years. We barely kicked any calves. But now that we've done it a lot, we discovered that there's a trick of the human body where we can make it's far more effective than we ever dreamed. But it was through doing it a lot that you see it. And that's what fighting does in general. If you have 100 fights of high level every single weekend, you get to 100 fights more of information. All that information goes into the organism that is the fight game.
Robin, first of all, thank you so much, because I have enjoyed this like it's not a job at all. This is what, if I could do anything, it would be talking in the manner that we're talking right now. I've taken you for 9 minutes longer than I told you I would take you. If you don't mind, can I ask, there's about 3 or 4 very big upcoming fights in the coming 6 weeks. Could you perhaps give one detail for the average person to look for in the upcoming fight? So we have next weekend, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is fighting. We also have Canelo Alvarez fighting Callum Smith next weekend. And then we have Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier. We have Ryan Garcia, the good-looking kid.
I love that kid,
Yes. Who's actually from kind of the neighborhood-ish area from where I'm from. And there was one other fight that I just can't recall right now. But we have those 4 upcoming fights. Could you perhaps give one thing for people to look for in each of those fights if they know nothing about fighting?
Yeah, I love this question too. And I'll say this first. You know, to learn anything in a meaningful way, not just to imitate people who appear to be doing the thing, which is, you know, an option you always have, but to do it for your own reason, you have to dispel the typical conversation points. So, and I really appreciate you didn't say, hey, you know, this guy versus this guy, let's break it down. How does their striking match up? Those are old narratives. We do them because we've always done them. We do them because we see people on television wearing suits do them, but they're illogical. This is far more logical, far more interesting, I think. Stephen Thompson, one thing I think to watch is, I mean, how he moves his feet and how he'll appear to float, you know? When you see all this stuff happening at distance, people using a lot of fakes to create reactions, you know, fighting a longer distance, moving in and out. Stephen was a big part of pioneering all of that, at least in the context of MMA. So you watch how he floats, and I could easily watch the entire night and just look at his feet. So I would tell people to do that. Just watch his feet, watch the way that he floats, and watch the way that he shifts his weight. And don't think of it in terms of you know, this is a punch, this is a kick. Think of it in terms as one long fluid thing. So just the fluidity with which Stephen Thompson and how hard that is for somebody else to react to. I think that's really interesting. I think for Canelo Alvarez, I think what's super interesting is you'll see him respond to something. If you watch it in slow motion or you see the replays, you'll literally see him respond to something, and it's his reaction time of his brain. In the milliseconds, he will dismiss it. So if we take a fastball hitter, we all understand that ball just zips by us and we can't see anything. And yet somehow that person can see something different. And it's been broken down to us over years that in fact that their brain is seeing it at a different speed, right? Which is wild, but you can literally train your brain to interpret time, speed, velocity different. And Canelo Alvarez is like a genius example of that. So there was a moment on one of my breakdowns where Canelo injures his guy, and as his guy is starting to fall, the hand kind of wobbles down almost in a way that it looks like he's going to, and you see it in slow motion. And you see Canelo, who's already hurt his guy, as his guy's hand wobbles down, you see Canelo go to block a punch that isn't a punch. That's his brain's interpretation of what's happening. So
is this the Sergey Kovalev knockout?
Yes. And if somebody were to go on Twitter and put in 1 minute breakdown, Canelo.
Do you mind if I put it in this clip? Do you mind if I put? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, if you find it, you'll drop it in. And what you'll see, and in the breakdown, I show Canelo literally go to hide his body. from a non-punch.
The show. You want to see something incredible, my friends? Watch this detail to see how present and connected to the moments Canelo is. He'll land the shot and hunt Kovalev. He's aware that he's hurt, but his nervous system is so highly tuned when Kovalev's wobble shakes his left low, Canelo's defense still responds. Watch. They are so special, and then it's Bink City. Canelo Alvarez with a sensational performance for your DAZN Bink of the Night.
But that's his brain. And so I know this is maybe, you ask for something that people could see that's interesting. What you start to realize is that Canelo is not, he can't possibly be thinking in terms of words, right? There's no words happening in there. There's a brain that is responding to all of the information the same way that a race car driver responds to information, the same way that a fastball hitter does it in moments, but it's happening long. So yeah, if you put that piece in, maybe people will see that. It's so cool. Garcia, I think a really interesting thing with him. And I have another breakdown. You might find it.
His body was bladed as he attacked. We celebrate a moment like this, but this moment was created in a young lifetime of preparation. In the chaos of combat, an artist must act almost without thought. So it is the training that creates the moment.
Garcia too. And it's his straight right, left hook. And I've made 3 or 4 on him, but one of them, I show him doing it, and then I show him training it on the double end bag, and I picture that. And you see him doing it in such a way, again, you start to understand this is a human being changing the neural processing of his own nervous system to be able to do something with zero conscious thought. Afterwards, he's like, oh yeah, I hit him with my right left hook. But at the time, he's feeling, he's moving the way a jazz guitarist solo. So the way, again, I find freestyle hip hop to be an interesting example of this. Because if you asked the guy before and said, what are you going to say? He's like, I don't know, I'm just going to flow. And then after, he'd laugh and be like, oh shit, did you see what I say? That's how the young, great, young master like Garcia flows. It's like hip hop. It's like freestyle rap. And then what was your other one that? Oh,
Conor and Poirier. And I guess that one also has the inherent difference of that they've already fought before, and this one is at a different weight class. I would suggest both fighters have changed drastically since they last fought.
And that if we said that. I remember saying that 3 or 4 years ago in a breakdown where I basically just tried to find a way to explain that concept. It's like we say Tyron Woodley's got a big right, Conor McGregor's got a big left hand, he's got crazy movement, great, brilliant distance management. Dustin Poirier, southpaw, has got great power. We say these things as if they're inherent attributes. We're the result of training, learning, change, growth, trial, error, preparation. None of what I said is true about either of those guys. And whenever we do that, and that is the fundamental mechanism through which we'll be asked to do it on television. I'll always try to find a way to make my, partner or whoever I'm working with happy enough, the producer, but also find a way to slowly advance that idea that's not true. Conor McGregor isn't the biggest left punch in the game. Unbelievable those are just words. These humans have changed so dramatically, so completely, and when you reverse engineer whatever the result is after, one of the answers will be one of the things you can draw from will be which one of them changed not only more, but in ways that suited them. You don't just change yourself either. You change how the puzzle piece of you fits in with the puzzle piece of him, knowing that his puzzle piece is also changing, right? Conor McGregor knocked out Cowboy Cerrone with a left head kick. You know how many fake left feints he had to throw to do that? 0. Just the one as he threw it. Normally, if I wanted to kick you in the head, I would throw a few, and hide it behind. Like if we take Anthony Pettis and Joe Lozon, I broke that down 8-9 years ago. Pettis throws the straight a couple of times, and when Lozon, you see him parry it, and then the head kick comes behind. Conor threw zeros. You know why? Because his reputation served to get the reaction. His reputation is Conor punched a bunch of people with his left hand for a long time and they fell down. Robin Black called it the Celtic Cross, and Faraz Zahabi called it the touch of death, and Joe Rogan said it's the best weapon in the game. And we all built it up because it was true. And his reputation served so that he needed 0 feints to set up that left head kick. So how do you change compared to his reputation? If your guess was, when there's a left hand, I'll back up, he changed, when I throw a left hand, you'll back up, I'll throw a head kick. So we're changing in the dynamic of our relationship to what each other is. And so Poirier and Conor McGregor, your best bet is take no information whatsoever from the first fight if you in any way want to project this fight.
Robin, you are a master. I could listen to you talk about combat, talk about life for an hour, but I do not want to take up any of your any more of your time. Thank you so much. This has been such a joy. This does not feel like work at all for me. So thank you so much. I look forward to hearing more of your breakdowns here in the near future. I hope we can talk again.
Yeah, me too, man. Stay in touch, like 3, 4, 5 weeks from now, let's do it again.
Is there anything you would like to not plug, but is there anywhere you want people to go and I can send them to see your work?
I do. I put up 1 or more breakdowns every day on at Robin Black Martial Arts on Instagram and Facebook. I just started putting stuff up on TikTok. I'm trying to find ways to make that, to find the meaning in these moments in a different way. So I'm experimenting with that. That's at Robin Black Bink. But yeah, I just want to keep growing and learning and changing. And there is something I'm really interested in right now. It's a 1,000-year-old Nigerian form of combat called Dambe. And if people want to check out African Warriors FC, I'm going to be doing some breakdowns of this martial art Dambe. It's fascinating. They have this is called the spear and this is called the shield. And they actually have this sort of a wrapped weapon and then a protective weapon, and it's really interesting martial art. But now for me, learning from all over the world is a key. So I'm travel to Myanmar to learn that way, and travel to Africa to consume some of the historic African fighting. To me, that's where the secrets for the next 4 or 5 years are going to be. But yeah, please just check out my stuff, and if people like it, please share it.
I'm a history nut as well, so I can understand your appreciation for it. Robin Black, thank you very much. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Cheers, man. Thank you. Enjoy the hostilities, my friends.